Cue intro music.
It's the Cody Podcast. I'm gonna actually download this thing and then cut that out, and that'll actually be
Bam, bam, bam.
the theme
Is it just
song.
your voice doing that? Is the
Yeah,
whole thing?
yeah. No, I'll have a symphony.
Oh, please do it.
A symphony of that garbage.
With you lightly in the background.
Yes. Okay. Let me go ahead and make sure that YouTube isn't being even more ridiculous.
Of course.
Let's see here. Sally Mundy. For anyone that's joining the stream, okay, yes, we are, in fact, live.
Okay, so it's working.
It just doesn't want to show me that we're live. Because we're not. Probably because we're not using the horrible new YouTube Studio BS garbage thing.
Yeah, no thanks.
But yeah, so hi everybody. First time streaming to the new channel. Lots of everything actually since the last time we did a podcast. It's been nearly half a year.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
The president finally lost his mind.
Oh my god. Well, since we've last done this, he's been impeached, and then I think they were actually gonna do the take those articles to the Senate tomorrow, is what they said.
I don't know. Honestly,
So
I haven't even been paying attention anymore because so I don't know how closely you're monitoring everything, but there was a point where my wife came home and she was like, "Did you hear they're gonna impeach Trump?" And I was like, "It's the same crap that the Democrats have been doing since day one." Because I'm not really with either side. I think they're both horrible in their own ways. And I did vote for Trump, so I'm not horribly against the guy.
Yeah.
But then I started hearing about all the stuff he'd been accused of, and I was like, okay, this might actually be something serious.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and they're finding a lot more feels like every other day pulling up, and I mean there's a whole lot of controversy now, and I'm not following it too terribly closely because I've been spread throughout. I mean, especially with, of course, I mean at this point a lot of people should be familiar with what's going on in Iran. I've delved pretty deep into the Iran thing at this point.
I see.
I've never been hugely invested in foreign affairs, but since this happened, I've gone back and I've done some serious research into the history of Iran and our history with Iran and their relationship with Iraq and neighboring countries, and that has really consumed me lately because I mean I was trying to follow the impeachment thing, and then Pelosi just held on to the articles, and then we've just been at this standstill for a long time. And I mean, I kind of get it to a point that they wanted to make sure that they had, a little bit more to run off of because they don't have direct proof of the quid pro quo, just because he didn't flat out say, hey, do this for me and I'll do this for you, because I mean, I like to say he's an idiot, but in this case, he's not an idiot, and he's not going to throw himself under the bus.
Right.
So I mean, he's not dumb enough to flat out say something like that. He's the type of businessman that's been through this before, and he knows not to say things. He implies things.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of the thing. There was no flat out quid pro quo because he didn't say it, and that's apparently you have to say the magic words for it to be a thing.
Right.
And so everyone's playing this game now of do we wait it out and wait for more information, or do we push it through and get it done and over with? And I'm definitely between the lines here on this. I mean, I never thought Trump was presidential material. I mean, the type of person he is, the personality is definitely not presidential, historically speaking. Granted, tradition shouldn't really dictate much of anything, but still, there's that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but on top of that, there's also this absolute obsession with hard focusing the impeachment process, and it has been since he showed up. And I don't really blame a lot of people in some ways, but it's like y'all have a one track mind. It's like at this point, I mean, I get it to a point. Like at this point, yes, I do agree with impeachment, just because he definitely did.
What he's accused of doing.
Right? Yes, he withheld foreign aid, and we have like more and more information of this all the time. Like I think the most recent thing that I heard was he um there was the phone call that was made,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that phone call, I think it was 45 minutes after the phone call, an email was made from I'm forgetting the names of people now. It's been
But
so
he's
long.
with the OMB. I know what you're
Right,
talking
yeah.
about.
He made the email to the Pentagon saying, "Hey, can we hold this aid?" So it was like literally he had the phone call with the leader over
Vladimir.
there. Yeah,
Or not Vladimir.
the Ukrainian leader.
Zelensky.
Yeah, Linsky. And uh like just said like yeah the aid's coming, but basically like, can you do me this favor and look into blah, blah, blah. I don't remember the exact wording, but basically he was asking him to do him a favor and investigate Biden, who would be a potential threat in the upcoming election, which is like not okay. That's an abuse of power. But like, and then of course immediately after that, not 45 minutes, like Trump had reached out to someone to tell them to do the thing, and then he emailed them based on what he said. This all being within 45 minutes of time directly says that he decided to withhold based on the phone call, where
Right.
they didn't absolutely say yes, we will investigate for you. So that's really like where the big thing is now. But then of course he's like telling people not to testify, and that's an abuse of power, and that's obstruction. I mean, that's obstruction.
Yeah.
And then there's other things going on there. But supposedly, if I recall, I mean, rather, what I saw earlier today was that Trump retweeted somebody else saying something to the effect of, tomorrow it goes to the Senate.
Right.
It was worded really weird, so I didn't know if it was if it was them trying to say, "Hey, let's get it to the Senate tomorrow," or if it was saying, "Hey, this is finally happening tomorrow." So
I see.
I'll have to do a little bit more digging to be 100% on that. Um, but
Yeah, like my thing is, so when I figured out, that like this might actually be something, quote big, I started trying to research it, and I just couldn't find a single news source that I felt was like completely unbiased, because they all, I would say most of them have a slight left lean, and then some of them have an absolutely abhorrent right lean.
mm,
That seems to be the trend. Is either you're very slightly left, which in a way is like kind of almost more dangerous to me, because it's like it lets that slip in a little easier. But then like you've got the right, and the thing is I don't get how people like listen to the like right wing news anymore, and don't recognize it as the like just blatant propaganda that it is.
dude, it's scary, man. Like, quite literally, there was the uh, whenever we, what's been going on with Iran. Um, and I'm not just delving into this. This is just like a surface level. Like what happened with Iran. Uh, we we did what we did, and then they retaliated by firing missiles at what they knew and understood was an empty base
Right.
at the time. But it was a retaliation. They dropped missiles on that base, and nobody was hurt. They didn't intend to hurt anybody. That they've stated, but it was just a retaliation effort to show their people that they whatever, strong arming and all. But as those missiles were hitting, Trump didn't say anything to start, and all of like Fox News constantly, they were just like saying these really like crazy like warmongering stuff. They're like, we're our president is gonna hit them with the full force of the American army and blah blah blah. Like, nothing was stated. Like, he didn't say that he was going to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, prior he said if they attack U.S. citizens, we're gonna we will retaliate hard and fast with all whatever. He said that before.
Right.
But like in this case, without hearing what he said, they were saying like basically like, we're going to war. And like I had a couple of people on Facebook that were like, that's it, this is war, we're going to war, can't wait to bomb them or whatever. And I'm like, guys, chill. I mean, it was it was a scary thing. And then, of course, the following day, uh, Trump had like the press conference where he said nobody was hurt, everything's de-escalated, blah blah blah. But like, you know, these people that are on my friends list, they don't keep up with press releases, press conferences. They keep up with like Fox News whenever they can.
Right.
So they, in their minds, even after this press conference, are still like, we're at war with Iran, and that's not what's happening. And like, but like they're so okay with it, you know. And
Yeah.
they were just like gung ho. They're like, you know, bomb them and all. And I'm like, do you not understand like the implications? Like nobody wants to go to war. I mean, like there are rich people that could benefit off of it for sure, but like we're not like it's almost like they're trying to make it another by another partisan thing.
Right.
And just like the impeachment, I mean, it's almost purely a partisan thing at this point. I mean, like on both, you didn't happen to see live whenever it was in the House, did you? Whenever they were having the hearings in the House to vote on the
Yes.
articles.
Before we get on to that, though,
Yes.
Corvus has joined the chat.
Okay.
Hello, Corvus.
Saw it.
Um, you said no, it's not. What exactly were you referring to? Because I think there's some lag in the YouTube stream, and so by the time I saw your comment, we were probably several seconds, if not nearly a half a minute, past where where it is that you were responding
Yeah,
to.
for sure. Would definitely like to be on the same page and be able to have this a little more open.
Yeah, for sure. This is one of the reasons I kind of wanted to stream the podcast, is just for like fan interaction, almost like. But we're gonna move on to like what we were originally saying, Corvus. But feel free to write out, and we will respond to you. What you were referring to originally. But yeah, so I did see you're talking about like were you talking about the televised stuff in the judiciary and the intelligence committee?
I was more so talking about whenever they were voting on the articles in the House.
I saw that after the fact.
Okay.
Because
I mean,
it was something like I was at work that day or something.
yeah, and that's all it is. I like if you saw 5 minutes of it, then you saw all of it. It was literally the entire thing was you know, somebody from the left steps up and says, you know, this is unacceptable. He's not, no one's above the law. Like they said the same phrases over and over again. Like he did this. We have evidence of this, and no one's above the law. And if we let this go, then who's to say every other president after won't do it? But then like somebody else from the right steps up and says, there's no proof. He's a duly elected president. It was the same thing over and over again. It was just a cycle, and it was literally like 4 hours of that.
Yeah.
Before they voted, and it was almost purely partisan.
Yeah, so like I watched we'll get to you here in a second, Corvus, because I do like your point. And feel free to keep writing. But I going off what you were saying, I watched all of the intelligence stuff, sometimes live, like if it was on a day I wasn't at work, or like if there were days where they actually had it on. And I the Intelligence Committee hearings, I watched those in their entirety because it was just extremely informative. Very well thought out and constructed arguments from the left, at least. And then even the right had some good stuff there once they stopped being little babies the first like two. Like that kind of ticked me off. The first two ones, they were just literally just hung up on like procedure and stuff. And it was so annoying.
I don't know that I saw this that you're talking about.
Texas Representative Hurd.
Yeah.
I wish more Republicans were like him, because he obviously did not side with impeachment. But he was like, look, what the president did is not okay. And he needs to have, repercussions of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he was basically like, I don't think these crimes meet the definition of impeachment. And it's like, at least when you explain yourself a little bit, and kind of like state your opinions and your point, and you concede a little bit, and you kind of go back towards the middle, then you start being at a point where I can kind of understand. What I don't understand is like the ones like Jim Jordan or Devin Nunes, where they're just bending over backwards and spouting like the most ridiculous conspiracy theories and Fox News headlines and
Mm-hmm.
crap, pretzeling themselves to defend this president who's doing things that are indefensible. That's where I start getting a little bit annoyed. And then by the time it got to the Judiciary committee meetings, I was just so done because at that point, even the left was like not being civil. Like I despise Nadler. He's
I
just up there
feel it.
swinging his gavel, and I don't agree with the right, and I especially don't agree with who said it. Um, but at one point, the guy from Kentucky, I forget his name, was like, "Just because you're up there swinging the gavel doesn't make it any more right or wrong."
Right.
And completely agree.
Right. Yeah.
At that point, it just delved back into partisan hackery on both sides.
And it seems like it's almost all it is now. And like, I'm not saying it's partisan in a sense that like it has become a purely partisan thing, but it's mostly because neither side wants to end up thinking for themselves. There was like, I think there were like very specifically in the House vote. Um, Before I do that, he had mentioned.
Yeah, I want to
So
address what Corvus was talking about
right,
because all
right,
of his points are like actually really well made.
yeah. So Soleimani was not a good person.
Definitely not.
That is, I mean, agreed, and just pretty much anybody can agree with you. I mean, Iranians, in some sense, had actually looked up to him as a hero, and most of that being because he was like he was leading the fight in almost every way against ISIS.
Yeah.
Like he was like hugely against ISIS, but also he employed torture methods and things like that. He had done some awful things, and we have people in our military that have done awful things that we would still pride as being a hero of some sort, right? So it's a
Mm-hmm.
very similar thing. However, the way we did it, and I'm not going to be the one that talks strategy. I mean, it was an assassination. Like it wasn't. It was. It was not proportionate to what was going on.
Right.
Everything that every single thing that Iran has done has been in retaliation to something. They don't just lash out at other countries or anything. Like it was, and this, of course, what we did was in retaliation to whenever like there was the riot outside the
The
embassy.
C's. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So and that, of course, was in response to whenever we uh, illegally drone striked and killed. I think it was 24 or 26
Mm-hmm.
uh, of their militia. That they were just
It's been a tit for tat thing,
it's been constant like that. Absolutely, it's been
and
constant.
that's the thing is, I think I think everybody between Corvus, me, and you, I think we're actually pretty much all fairly in agreement, which is, you know, he was a bad guy. He did need taken out, but the execution was
Mhm.
very wanting. A tit for tat sort of thing like this has been going on. An eye for eye leaves everybody blind.
Right.
Um,
And like a million times, like not only was it overstepping. I mean, first of all, I mean jumping straight for somebody in like that high of a position in their military was just again that itself was too much. But also like he was in Baghdad in Iraq at the airport with Iraqi military personnel, and Iraq is supposed to be our ally.
yeah,
Like, and we gave them no heads up. And the way we did it, and I mean, like, everything about it was wrong. And I mean, this again seems to be almost another partisan thing, except there are actually people on the right stepping over to say,
I don't
that
want another war,
yeah, they were
endless
like
war.
this was too much, like this is disastrous, he's acting on his own, like he's overreacting, he's gonna throw us in where we don't want. And then of course the people on the left are also admitting, they're like, look, there's a bad guy, I get it, but the strategy's all wrong. So but it almost still almost falls along partisan lines, and it feels like every single issue lately has been that.
Yeah, and I do want to point out just because I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah.
There was I forget who it was. Um, which really stinks because I wish I can't even remember the state
Mm.
that they were representing, but it was one of the few people who actually got to attend all the briefings,
Mm.
and they were Republican, and they stepped out of it, and his quote was, "That was the worst military briefing I've ever been a part of since I've been here," and he is not one of the like longest standing people by any means.
Mm.
I think he's been there like 8 years.
Still though.
But still, in 8 years, that means he was probably, you know, coming into the Obama administration, he was probably dealing with some of what was left over from George Bush Jr.
Right. And we've pretty much been in a constant state of war since 9/11. So at this rate, I'm sure he's seen plenty of this going on. Maybe.
And I do want to say, just because, like, one thing that I've been accused of a lot lately, which annoys me, because I've pretty much been a conservative my entire life, or some form of conservative.
Right.
I don't want to put a label on myself. I'm not like a leftist shill, and I'm not. I did not like Obama. I think Obama, just as well as George Bush and Clinton, was very much behind the scenes, did a lot of things that I think he could have and perhaps should have been impeached for. He greatly expanded the executive branch's power to limits that really it should never have been expanded to, and he did all this preceding Trump. So I mean, you know,
right? I mean, the NDAA being like one of the big things, but even then, they're still out that went under the radar.
Yeah. So it's not that I'm saying like, oh, Trump is the worst thing ever. Again, I personally voted for the guy.
Right. Yeah.
It's that I'm saying wrong is wrong, and we shouldn't be waiting until it's not, quote, our side,
right,
that's in the wrong. You know, the right is waiting for the left to be in the wrong so that they can throw crap at the left. The right is waiting for the left to be wrong so they can throw crap at the left.
Right.
And they need to put all the, like you said, all the partisan hackery aside and just, okay, here's the line in the sand. It starts now. Get them all out.
Right. That's I mean, that would be ideal if we could just get a hard reset. I mean, get
a hard reset with term limits on everything.
Term limits, yes.
On everything.
There aren't a whole lot talking about term limits right now, and that's kind of scary. I mean, obviously we employ term limits, and then I mean, if it's not Bernie that gets elected, then he'll have to find something else to do. I'm sure he can move around, but
right.
I mean, this is no question. I've definitely already posted that I at this point I'm following Yang pretty well to the end until he gives up, if he gives up. But I don't like voting for people. I vote for ideas, and him being like a one policy runner for UBI. I mean, we've talked about this in recent podcasts. That's like, to me, that's the most important thing we can do. So that's pretty much it. But he himself is talking about term limits too, and that is another plus. Like, term limits is like, get him out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. And, a lot of people are talking about term limits. When they are talking about it, they're just talking about like for the House or the Senate or both. I think we even should term limit judges, to be perfectly honest. Now, it would have to be a much longer term, I think, to maintain justice system's balance. But I think there should be limits on judges as well, term limits.
Right, definitely. I mean, pretty much anyone in like a position of what could be seen as power, representative, anything, there needs to be some kind of limit on it, because, I mean, I don't want to use the same phrase everyone else says and say people get comfortable and they just want to chill, but also, I mean, that's more time for like monetary pressures to fall into place, and for not necessarily you to get comfortable where you are, but with like, companies to get comfortable where you are. And like, I think the longer somebody stays in some form of leadership or representative, position, the more apt they are to start accepting contributions from, larger companies, and acting more erroneously and things like that.
All I'm going to say to what you typed there, Corvus, is that I absolutely agree with you about the how that money has been portrayed wrongly.
Yeah.
just like you said, that was actually money that Obama sent to Iran to essentially cover a debt that we'd owed them for many, many years.
He said a couple of things here, so um, not to backpedal too far, but yeah, the stuff from '76 was, I mean, we had that was just Iran overthrowing, or rather, finally like starting the revolution against the guy that we put in, the Shah. That was and that's a whole deep rabbit hole in itself. But basically, in like I think it was in '53, we staged a coup and overthrew their leader and put in the Shah, who would actually work with the U.S. And that's all public information. You can find that anywhere. And finally, they decided to elect their own leader, and then that's whenever we started to have serious issues. As far as the Obama stuff, same situation. I agree with it. I mean, we and same situation like compared to like what's going on now. I mean, like everything de-escalated, but then Trump put heavier sanctions back on Iran. Like he's going to destroy their economy. If he doesn't like physically destroy them, he's going to destroy their economy one way or the other. It seems. Um, but yeah, like the money that he had gave, like you said, it was what we owed them. We put them in hard situations. He lifted for that accord that we were a part of. He lifted the sanctions again in agreement for something so that they could actually work on boosting their own economy, but we wouldn't have to worry about them being a threat. And then one of the first things Trump did was like pull out of that accord.
Yeah.
And then Iran only held on to their end of the bargain, even though like Trump lifted the accord and wanted to impose those sanctions back. The UK stayed within the accord, and they were like, "Look, Iran, we're good. We're going to hold up our end of the bargain," and that's why Iran has not been enriching their uranium and actually trying to work on creating nukes or anything like that. But now we're imposing sanctions back on them again. So it's like now that it's like we've totally backed out and flipped and put everything right back the way it was. So they're like, okay, well, we're going to enrich our uranium again. Like uranium again. That's like you know we have no incentive not to, and we need to defend ourselves because you will elect these leaders, and they very specifically say that they hate our leadership. They don't hate the American people.
Right.
They shouldn't have to express that, but I feel like it's smart for them to, because Americans in particular don't know how to differentiate. If we have a problem with another country's military operations, we hate their people for it.
Yeah.
And that's why we get to the point of literally talking about nuking like
entire countries or civilizations.
Yeah. Like that should never ever be in the cards, but it gets
brought up surprisingly often.
And it's normalized.
As I say, as a conservative who used to have many of these particularly toxic viewpoints, it's surprisingly often that these people, especially right wing, I'm gonna say it's gonna make me a real unlikable person to certain people in my real life.
Oh no.
But especially among conservative Christians, it is amazing how much that Christians who should value life to a very high degree just are willing to just blow it up like it's nothing.
And that I'm sure has been more of an overtime like evolution. It's like, I mean, of course,
if you can distance yourself from it, that's what I've seen, even on like a very personal level. You know, I see people, and they're good people. I don't want to give the wrong impression.
Right.
They're good people, but they have these viewpoints that are completely contrarian when it comes to people they don't know. I could take, I'm not going to say who exactly or what, but I could take some of my, gay or bisexual friends up to certain people I know and know to be good people, and they would treat these people like kings and queens. But the second you're talking about someone that they don't know and will never know and have no ability to know, like, say, some, trans athlete from clear across the country.
Right.
then it's like, oh, that's a shame. They're sinners. They deserve this and they deserve that.
Right.
And it's like, if you wouldn't say it to someone face to face, you shouldn't say it at all.
That's so real because it's, I mean, we're falling into like these weird localized perception. Like it's almost like a knee jerk reaction when the person's not around you to say something like that. Just like holistically, and it's a groupism thing. It's an in group, out group mentality. It's like not only are they not part of my group, they are the enemy, or they are the sinner, or they are the problem with the way the world is, or stopping what the world could be, or something like that. And people will go to pretty disgusting extremes. Like, I mean, there was whenever a quick example, um, whenever we did that strike on Soleimani, and the Iranian leadership said that they were going to get revenge on it.
Mm-hmm.
People started posting on Facebook it was like a map of Florida, like highlighting this little spot, and they said, "Hey, Iran, he's right here. He's playing golf." Like basically saying, "Hey, go kill him," like Trump, you know. And I'm like, and that's why I had to make that post. I was like, "Look, nobody deserves to die, not even Trump. Like, you people are being ridiculous."
Right.
And like, it's just the most extreme thing, and it's like, and I almost get if you're just trying to make a joke out of it, but at the same time, like, we don't need to be normalizing something like that either. You know, it's
Right.
scary. Like, we've already let so much be normalized to the point where, like, I'm terrified. Like, mob mentality is way worse now than it ever used to be.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, and that's why you have all these, and, I'm not going to say the left isn't guilty of it,
mm-hmm.
but that's why you have all these people that go to all these rallies, Trump rallies, Bernie rallies, whatever. When the hell did politicians become rallies? Like, you know what I mean? They serve us. They're supposed to, at least.
Right? Yeah.
Why do they have such big followings?
I don't know, man. I refuse to be a part of all that. Like, I exactly like I said a minute ago. I don't vote for people. I vote for ideas, and so it's a lot easier for me to say I support somebody whenever it's like a one, like a single policy runner. It's the only reason I'm really following suit with this right now. But also, I would like to see things change. Even though on the flip side, I'm very nihilistic, and like, I don't really think that our vote counts or matters. But I won't tell other people not to vote. I'll even go out and vote. I'll be like, look, if I could see things progressing in a different way, I would like to see it go in the direction that this person's talking about. So I guess I will vote to say that I've done something or tried, because I can't complain otherwise, right?
Right.
But still, it's just I think it'd be I I dream about a a system where we can vote on policy instead of voting on people. The only reason we ever needed representatives was because we didn't have a way to represent ourselves, and now we do.
It's
But
called it's called the internet. It's called an
yeah,
online poll.
an online direct democracy, put it on a blockchain. I mean, it could be so simple, guys. But of course, nobody wants to talk about that. And the ones who do talk about it,
Or like shunned.
like nobody wants to listen to them. Like, it takes, and no one, I mean, it doesn't help that people don't understand what the blockchain is. They hear blockchain, and if they have heard it before, they attribute it to Bitcoin. And a lot of people just want to say, oh, that's, lazy people not wanting to work actual jobs, and like they're just hoping that the dollar collapses, or trying to destroy the economy, or it's always some people find some weird backward ass way to give a negative connotation. And just one of the links in the chain happens to be the blockchain technology. And so, like, I mean, even whenever we start talking about generally just doing like online direct democracy voting, I mean, there are problems with that. I mean, the reason you don't have a direct democracy is because of the lack of education, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then it's mob rule, and that's not fun for anybody either. But I mean, one leads to another. We have to start looking towards something like, I mean, like, we're already voting on people, and we're voting on people based on their policy. But a lot of what's happening is we're voting on people based on their personality,
Yeah.
and like this kind of facade that they put out. I mean, like, we almost knew nothing about the concepts of like what Trump wanted to do. He gave us a 90-day plan, but like, all we knew was that
He wanted a wall.
He wanted a wall, and he wanted to bring back coal jobs, take a step back as far as like, being sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's pretty much all he had. And he kept talking about being an outsider and draining the swamp and all this stuff. And like
But that's like a very emotional and not concrete.
exactly. Like he made weird promises that there's no way like nobody can hold him accountable for because they weren't like tangible like promises.
Right.
They're just weird things. And like the fact that he won, I mean, I don't think of it that way. I don't think that, he happened to come out on top because people decided they liked it. I think it came down to him and Hillary, and it was a whole lot of, lesser of two evils, which we've talked about already.
Yeah.
And nobody likes Hillary. That's just it. Nobody wanted it. I mean, people wanted Hillary, but like, we'll take an asshole over a warhawk, I guess.
Yeah.
And then here we are still worrying about going into the next world war. So like, we can't win.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's I feel like that's good on politics for this one.
Yeah,
I feel like we this is pretty succinct, and I especially like that Corvus was here to bring up his points.
Yeah, that's nice. I'd like to keep doing this.
Yeah,
keep this kind of thing going.
But yeah, so let's move on to maybe something a little bit more lighthearted, so that the whole podcast isn't super serious and everything. There have been a ton of games come out since we last met up.
Yes.
And I want to know what you've been playing, and I'll tell you what I've been playing.
Oh, my answer is boring because, just like, I mean, this time a year ago, I think we still had the same conversation. We talked about what happened at CES, and we were talking about games that we were playing and games that were coming out. And I haven't really budged, man. I'm pretty much still playing shooters. Still on Apex right now. They're doing a thing. I got the new Call of Duty, even though I said I wasn't going to. Somebody actually bought it for me whenever I was streaming.
Oh, okay.
Because they wanted to see me playing it. Yeah, one of my buddies. So he bought Call of Duty for me, so I ended up playing that. I've had a lot of fun with that, particularly a certain game mode that, really vibes with me. I'm very much a solo player, not really a team player.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I've been falling within some sort of, like, solo or duo or small team shooters lately. But I mean, I've been fiddling around with some arcade games here and there, but nothing that really, really, catches my attention. However, I mean, we have coming up a pretty good set of games coming up this year. Before I jump into that, I mean, I would let you answer, but no, nothing really. I downloaded old school RuneScape mobile on my phone.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've been grinding at some mining.
You and Christian should talk about that. He was super into RuneScape back in the day.
I used to think I was, but then every time I talked to somebody who was super into it, I realized how much of a scrub I really was. So I'm just like, I guess I was a filthy casual then, because I didn't spend a whole lot of time as a member. I just spent a lot of time on it and like the community. But yeah, that's about it for me right now.
Haunted Mansion.
Oh yes, going in there to fight the Dracula. Dracula was in there. Oh man, that I died so many times because I kept trying to go in as a low level, thinking I had it. I did not have it. I did not have it.
No, Christian was always the person that would like scam people, but not like super immoral scams. Like you should know better.
Yeah,
like like one of the things he used to do a lot, and I saw him do this several times successfully. He would take people to this like little house. I forget what was in it. It was some sort of enemy, like maybe a zombie or something. He would trap in there or something like that. And he'd be like, go in there and defeat the zombie, and I'll give you whatever. And they would go in there, and of course the thing's like going hyper mode on him, and he just shut the door.
So they can't.
Yeah, and they would be sitting there just panicking, running around trying to avoid getting hit, and so they can't like grab the door.
Mm-hmm.
And they would just eventually die, and you'd go take all their stuff.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
I've done the same thing too. I hate to admit it, but it's so easy in that game because like if people don't know any better, for fighting, you're set to auto retaliate. So if something hits you, you stop what you're doing and you fight back so that you don't die. But then also, like, to get through doors, like, you have to click the door to open it, you click the door to close it. So quite literally, all I had to do is stand outside the door, close it. The guy's in there. He probably instantly has the thing aggro on him. So he turns and hits him, gets locked into the fight, turns around, goes over, like, clicks to open the door,
and then click it back.
As soon as the door goes to open, you're taking a hit and you're auto retaliating. So you turn around. So if you've tried to click and move, it's like opened and then started fighting again. So the guy has time to close the door back. And it's like something about, like, just like you got maybe two chances and then you're gone.
It's like the classic like car door scene, you know? Just open the door.
Just open. Dude. Oh man. That and I used to play Puzzle Pirates too, and me and my roommate used to do the same thing to people there. We'd go in the bank because there was a bank in there, even though, like, it was almost never used for any actual purpose. It was just an empty building with, like, anybody could walk in and go back behind and stand there and look like an NPC. Mm-hmm. So we did. We went in there, we stood behind the thing, I pre-typed out a message, and somebody walked in, like a noob just walked in, and then I'd click enter, and it was like, hello, welcome to the bank. Come trade with me if you'd like to deposit anything. And they'd be like, oh, sweet. And then come up and just, like, give me everything, and then we accept it.
God.
Yeah, we were awful, man. We were awful kids.
No, so, man, there's been a lot of stuff that I've been playing. I probably see one of them over there, the Medieval remake.
Oh,
you ever play Medieval?
Yes.
Yes.
I played it a lot growing up.
Yeah, so good. And the remake is really good too. Now, it is not like a AAA sort of thing, but it does massively overhaul, like, everything, you know, the graphics, and it fixes up some of the control issues. Not that it really had control issues, but, like, you know, the jankiness from it coming out the time that it did.
Right, yeah.
That was an awesome game that I still actually haven't finished, which is why it's sitting over there. I figured maybe sometime I might stream it. Or, you know, if I'm here and I'm still waiting for, you know, the neighboring offices to let out so that I can, like, make a little extra noise. Right. You know, maybe just play it on my own time.
I would love to play Medieval, though.
Switch has been fantastic this past year, and it's going to keep up at least until March, and then it seems like it might drop off for a bit. Mm-hmm. So for Switch, I got The Legend of Zelda, the remake. What is it called? It's on the tip of my tongue. It's the remake of the Game Boy Color game.
Link's Awakening?
Yes.
Okay.
Very, very good game. It's I've not played that many of the original top-down style Zeldas. Mm-hmm. So that was, like, one of the first ones I did, and I really, really liked it. Apparently it's, like, a fan favorite.
Oh yeah, that was amazing.
So I played that. Luigi's Mansion 3 was absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you've seen, like, anyone play it or seen, like, footage of the game, but it's like a Pixar movie. I have no clue how Next Level Game pulled that off.
You said Luigi's Mansion 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Saw a little bit, but I haven't, like, delved, and I want to.
The animation is superb. The lighting effects are gorgeous for the Switch, especially. I really don't know how they got it to do that. And I just love the silly comedy crap that they give Luigi. Next Level Games really did a good thing with that in the second game, but the second game wasn't that good. The third game has all of, like, the aesthetics and the gameplay to back it up.
Right.
But, like, they all just speak in, like, this really simple language. Like, one of the opening scenes, Mario and Luigi get off, like, a tour bus and arrive at the hotel, and, like, Mario just steps down, and then Polterpup pops out, and he's like, "Hey, doggy!" You know, and that's, like, the whole line. That's it. You know, and then Luigi steps out and turns around, looks at the hotel, and, like, he's obviously, like, you know, his jaw drops, and he goes, "Wow, Zowie." You know, it's just like you can't hear it and not, like, laugh a little bit.
Right. It's so good.
But yeah, it's just the whole game is like that too. Just them doing little stupid, like, animations, like when you're Luigi and you find the poltergust
Mhm.
for the first time, like in the little tutorial, he does like a little dance, like while he's putting it on. He's like, it's just like the best.
Oh, man.
Oh, and every time you get a gem, this is the one I really like. Every time you get like a gem in that game,
Mhm.
he picks it up and he's like, "Wow, I get it."
Wow.
But yeah, that was a fantastic game. I'm trying to remember what else, because there was at least one. Pokemon,
Oh, Pokemon.
which was both somehow one of the best experiences I've had gaming wise in the last year or two, even, and somehow also disappointing.
Why do you think disappointing?
It did not feel long enough.
Okay, I feel that.
Yeah, I felt like, in fact, if I had my Switch here, we could have even looked up the playtime, but I swear I had that game done in like 10 hours, maybe
Yeah.
15.
And I know they're adding more to it, but are they just bringing in more Pokemon, or are they
They're
actually...
bringing in more Pokemon, more story beats, more locations. I think 2 more wild areas. They're bringing in a substantial amount of content, which begs the question.
Right.
I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. If they're going to have all that stuff ready less than a year after they release the game, why didn't they just release it with the game?
Right.
I'd have even paid $70-$80 for one game if they would have just released it with the game.
Right.
But now, essentially, what they're doing, or what they're saying they're doing, is, you know how they always bring out the 2 games and then they have like the third one that has like everything?
Yes, yeah.
That's what they're saying they're doing with this expansion pass. But to me, what's, and that makes sense. That makes some sense, right? Because, like, you buy the original game, and then if you want to buy the one that's got everything in it and all the extra doodads and all that crap, then it was, another 40 or $50. So that's what they're doing now. I think it's 30 or 40 for the expansion pass.
Okay, that's fair.
And from that perspective, I get it. But from my perspective, they released half their game, and now they're charging you for the other half.
Right, yeah.
At least with like the last couple of times when they did that, they actually had to make entirely new games.
Right. And I mean, similarly, of course, that's what we're going to be expecting with, the Final Fantasy VII remake coming up. It's like, it was a full game, and now, I mean, understandably...
Is it chapters or something?
It's chapters, yeah. So, I don't know if they've said it's going to be just 2 games or more. I think it's just going to be 2 games, 2 installments, but there's that. And, I mean, this could be a segue into upcoming games, unless there was something else that you wanted to talk about what
No, I was actually looking at Corvus's comment there.
Yeah, so here's the thing. They pushed back Final Fantasy VII's remake 3 weeks. So now it is in, I think it'd be April, which is now the same month that Cyberpunk comes out. And
that's going to be like the Battle of the Giants.
Yeah.
But I think Final Fantasy will win out.
I don't know, man, to be honest. Final Fantasy's huge, and I'm probably more excited about Final Fantasy.
I know I would.
Cyberpunk,
actually, not even I would be. I really do want to play the remake.
Yeah. But Cyberpunk has all of the hype right now. It's crazy how much, like...
I don't... unpopular opinion, I'm sure. And it's not that I... dislike the game or anything. I don't know anything about it. It just never has caught my attention.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I didn't play like the old one.
I didn't even know there was an old one. It's to me, it's like if you took Detroit Become Human, and then somehow or another stripped everything that I personally enjoyed about that game out of it. And then advertised it. Like, that's what I feel like Cyberpunk is for me. It's not that I'm saying it's bad objectively. It's probably very good. Or will be. But for me personally, it is not hitting any notes that make me interested.
Well, from what I'm gathering, and this may be totally ignorant because I don't really know on both ends here. I haven't seen gameplay of Cyberpunk yet. I've just seen, like... from like the old stuff, and I saw like the new trailers for it. but it's I think it's going to feel more like a futuristic augmented um Watch Dogs ish game.
You know what it kind of reminds me of?
What's that?
Just the aesthetics combined with kind of the gameplay, I guess,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit. It kind of reminds me of Sunset Overdrive. If you've ever seen or heard about that
Oh
game.
yeah, I played a good bit of that. It was
Like
this Tony
maybe
Hawk
maybe a
with
little
guns.
less vulgar, less like going for comedy,
Mm-hmm.
but otherwise the aesthetic it
Right.
has that. I mean, is that what it's called? I think it's no steampunk is what it's called, isn't it?
Steampunk, yeah, yeah.
I did not know. Is that CD Project Red?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah. They
On one hand, that kind of makes me, I wouldn't say excited. It intrigues me,
mhm.
but then again, I never really cared about The Witcher more past watching people play it.
Right.
I never wanted to play it myself, but I do enjoy watching other people play it.
I was halfway interested in playing it because I remember I had a for like the 18th time in my life, I had the itch to play Skyrim. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just delve into a different RPG and like take something new from it. And I started to look at doing Mass Effect because I never played the Mass Effect series either. I watched my
Mm-hmm.
roommate Shane play like all of it.
Same, yeah. I had a friend that played all of it,
Mhm.
but I never played it myself.
Yeah, and I was like, so maybe that. And then I tried the first little bit of it, and I mean, I went to the first game, so it was old, and the shooting mechanics were all bad, and I was like, I can't stomach this. And then I went to play The Witcher 3, and I got through like the initial, tutorial and like all this, and the first mission it made me do, and got probably 2.5 hours of gameplay in, and just I don't know, it didn't grab my attention. I feel like it was a lot for me to take in. I mean, when it comes down to it, Skyrim is a very simplistic RPG.
Yeah,
Like, it's not even remotely close to anything that's been like a full fledged RPG or like a JRPG. It's just like a pretty baseline, but very like,
palatable.
yeah, like pretty, easy to take in. Like anybody can play Skyrim.
I think
And
because my wife really loves The Witcher,
mhm,
and she's always been. She does not like platformers, but she loves Banjo Kazooie because it's about exploration, not about necessarily collecting everything.
right, yeah,
And that's how she's always been. She loves all the Jack and Daxter games because she gets to explore everything. The first one's a collectathon,
right,
lots of locales,
yeah,
and then the next two have less locales, and they're all kind of more unified, but it's still a massive open world to explore.
right,
And so I think maybe that kind of appeals to her with The Witcher because it's the same deal. It's a massive open world.
hmm,
There's lots of, as Corvus has pointed out, there's lots of really interesting character interactions.
right,
And so there's kind of like a feeling if you're really into exploration and getting everything out of the game and also just like seeing everything that you can see,
hmm,
then I think that The Witcher is probably like one of the best games in the world for someone like that because
right, yeah,
there's just it's jam packed. Not only is it massive,
hmm,
but it's jam packed. It's just like Breath of the Wild,
right, yeah,
which my wife also loves, and
right,
I do as well. But the thing is with Breath of the Wild is you don't get a lot of the interesting story beats. It's all about the gameplay, which is why I also really enjoy
hmm,
Breath of the Wild. It kind of has the best of everything in terms of exploration, open worlds, and like game mechanics, and just like interesting combat styles and stuff. Breath of the
right,
Wild does,
right, right.
but it kind of it gets all of the really good gameplay by foregoing any interesting stories or side plots. Or
But at that point, they don't have to. I mean, they're mostly playing on what is, you know, uh, nostalgia on top of like new mechanics to something that you're already invested in.
right,
Whereas The Witcher, I
had
mean,
to be its own thing in a way.
like they, a lot of people started on The Witcher 3,
Right,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And
That's what
like,
my wife did, and then she bought the rest of them, and she really could not stomach the first and second games. She played a little bit of the second, like a good way in,
yeah,
but she just didn't. So she actually read the books, and now she's watched the series.
yeah,
So I think that's the big appeal of The Witcher is all of the interesting things you can go do and find and see. But in particular, I think the character interactions that you can find and make
Mm.
is what really draws people
I
in.
think between that, the really good storytelling, I mean, just that environment as well. Something about what seems like an Iron Age era with a little bit of magic involved, and like
Right, it's like the
some of the
typical.
yeah, it's like almost
Not, and I don't mean that in like an insulting way. It's just
no, yeah. I mean, like I mean, something like that is
it has wide appeal.
right. Like it's easy for a few people to go ahead and put their foot in the door because of that. It's like, okay, you grabbed me by that. And then if somebody likes deep immersive storytelling with, you know, some really intense combat and deep skill trees, then other foot's in the door. And those are the kind of people that stick with that kind of a universe for life. Like same situation you said with your wife. At that point, you go and you read the books. You try the old games. You keep up with the new stuff. I mean, she's in with The Witcher for life now. So
Yeah, yeah.
but that's a very it's a honestly to me it's super surprising that whenever I saw that after the series had come and then The Witcher started to get this huge player base now more so than even whenever it first launched.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of blows my mind. It's like I didn't even think that there was an audience for that.
Yeah,
To
left
that
over.
degree.
Yeah.
And to people that like even for all the newcomers, it's like if you can entice people with a story, at that point they don't have to immerse as hard in the learning curve of playing the game and not knowing who anyone is. It's like now they have this idea
Right.
and now they're just learning the game.
Yeah.
And I guess that is an easier introduction. I wasn't expecting that though. Like that's
Right.
awesome of them. Very smart play.
Yeah. Yeah. Regarding other new games, Animal Crossing in March.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I'll be all over that. I haven't played Animal Crossing probably since the one for Wii.
Oh.
And I haven't played an Animal Crossing anywhere near to completion probably since the GameCube one.
For me, it's been GameCube, and completion was never in the cards. I mean,
I got
Tom Nook is dead.
insanely close to completing the GameCube one on my own, and then like I think it was the last expansion. I just got really impatient, and so I just used a game shark cheat and paid it off so that I could get the last little thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I am really looking forward to Animal Crossing because now I don't know if you've seen any of the stuff for it, but like you're on an island, you can customize literally everything, like even the outside. There's almost like a foraging and like what's the word I'm looking for, where you like utilize things from your environment.
And like almost like Terraform, but something like
scavenging sort of thing going on, where you like have to get the wood to build things by cutting down trees.
Resource management.
Yeah,
and,
that's really appealing to me. I know that's probably actually going to turn a fair amount of people off because a lot of people like the fact it's a really simple little life simulator.
Right. Yeah.
But for me, that's built for me.
I'll take that level of depth. That's exactly what I would want out of it. So I feel that.
But yeah, no. As far as Nintendo goes, that's kind of it. Is like Animal Crossing and the Pokemon DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what's going to come out after that? Because they sure haven't told us.
So, what do you think about the future of their console? Then, do you think? I mean, because of course, we have next gen coming this year.
I think
Xbox and PlayStation.
I think they're going to have a surprise announcement at some point this year. It may not be out this year, but I think at some point this year, Nintendo's going to have a surprise announcement. Surprise, the rumor's been going around literally since the original console dropped.
Right.
But I think that they will have a Switch Pro.
Okay.
They're basically going to have to because the only reason they're getting the ports that they have right now is because, frankly, Nintendo dumped a crap ton of money into making tools that would make programming for the Switch easier than it would otherwise be, if we're being frank. Because the NVIDIA Tegra chip in there, it's not like a PC chip. It's more akin to something like a mobile chip.
Right, yeah.
So, like, the fact that Nintendo has somehow, and probably with much help from Nvidia, if we're being honest,
Yeah, I can imagine.
um, the fact that they have provided tools that let people basically, I mean, some developers have said it's as easy as basically just taking the game and kind of plopping it on there and then changing some stuff around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then, obviously they have to downgrade the graphics if it's a really graphically intensive game, but that's the only reason we've got the ports. I can almost guarantee that.
Right.
Of other current gen stuff. And we're already seeing like Doom on there runs pretty well, but it's running 720p at
Right.
best.
Mm-hmm.
The what's the Colossus, whatever it is?
Shadow of the Colossus?
No,
I was like, kind of.
the other game that is on there from that same company, id Software, or well, it was bought up by Bethesda, but um, it's Wolfenstein.
Oh, Wolfenstein.
The Colossus, or whatever that was.
I didn't even know that was on there.
That's news to me. It is. Yeah, no, it's been on there. It actually had a simultaneous or very close to simultaneous launch between all the consoles, which was like really newsworthy at the time.
Okay.
Because everything that the Switch had gotten had been ports of real
way
old
late.
stuff.
Yeah, way late.
They got it running on there, and it runs well. I mean, it runs most of the time. It runs 30. Now, in one of the last scenes, it really does dip because there's like fire and crap everywhere.
Right, I can feel it.
But for most of the game, it runs a very steady 30. But you're playing at like 480p, 576p for basically the entire game.
Right.
Which even with, you can anti-alias that thing as much as you want, but at the end you're either getting 480p or you're getting a really blurry looking image. So like for them to be, they're not going to be able to keep up with these new consoles. There's just absolutely no way. They're going to have to put out a Switch Pro if they want modern ports of anything other than indie titles, basically.
So do you think that they can have a Switch Pro that's still portable and like feasible, or do you think it would be locked to being a home console versus like the Switch being locked?
I think it'll be I think it will be portable.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, I've not read any of the new rumors. There's actually a lot of new rumors that came out just this week about a Switch Pro.
Okay.
Not read any of that. Just pulling this out of my butt, basically. It's an educated guess.
Right.
But I would imagine it would still be portable. Don't know whether the Joy-Cons would be removable, just like with the Switch Mini. I have no clue. I think they would probably really like that to happen just for the ecosystem's sake.
Right, yeah.
But I don't know if that would be plausible, because then they still have to cram all that new technology into a really tiny little shell. Whereas, they might have a little bit more room to work with if everything's all attached. But I think it will be portable, and I think it will be dockable. I definitely think they'll do that.
Okay.
As to how much more powerful it'll be, I don't think it'll be that much more powerful. I think basically it'll bridge the gap between where it is now and a base PS4. Because where it is now is very slightly less powerful than an Xbox One.
Right.
A base Xbox One.
Right, yeah.
It's not even quite up to that yet.
Right.
And then it has quite a ways to go to get to base PS4.
Right.
I think that would probably be their, like, quote, power target. Would be get something that works like a base PS4. Because Xbox has already said, Microsoft has already said, first year that Xbox Series One X is out, or Series X is out, all the games will be cross-compatible with Xbox One.
Right.
And there won't actually be any exclusive titles.
Right.
Is what they've said. So I think they know.
For the first year.
Yeah, so I think they know if they can probably they're going to have to at least hit Xbox One base level.
Right.
But I think they know if they can hit PS4 base level, they'll have a little bit extra wiggle room for people to mess around with and maybe one up the Xbox One base model.
Right.
With some ports they could get. But I think that's probably going to be their area. I don't see them getting any more powerful than that, to be perfectly frank. I just don't see that happening. There's no way. I don't think that they can do that.
So, would you call this next gen? I mean, it's still technically like
The Switch or like everything?
Everything that's kind of like this year. I guess the PS5 and the Xbox Series X.
I
Like,
haven't seen that much of the PS5. I've seen live demos of Xbox One Series X. That is 100% a new generation.
see, that's what I figure. I mean, it's solid state. It's incredibly like way more powerful. It's just that like,
The ray tracing is baked in.
mm,
There's like go watch the Senua's. You've seen it?
oh, I've seen it. Yeah, I thought you were saying it for the
Yeah.
thing. Oh yeah,
What's it
I
called?
watched it
Senua's
live.
Sacrifice.
Yeah,
2.
I don't know what they called the new one, but yeah,
Yeah. Go look up that trailer. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a little bit of uncanny valley going on with some of like the motion,
mm-hmm.
but I mean, you could look at that and be forgiven for thinking it might be a movie playing.
Right.
You know, at least at a distance.
It's incredible, and
Like especially the water and like the landscapes. There's anytime there's a human on screen, I think if you're looking and paying attention, you'll know it's CGI.
right, yeah,
But like anytime it's just like, and water is really hard to do.
right.
Anytime it's like water or just like a terrain or like a wide shot,
mm-hmm.
it looks like real life. It's insane, you know, and we've gotten some really good graphics, you know, in this past generation, way more than what these consoles frankly should be capable of putting out.
Right, yeah. I mean, Detroit itself was like
Insanely
phenomenal.
good. Kingdom Hearts 3 was also actually surprisingly good. It was basically Pixar level in real time.
Mm-hmm. That was really nice, especially the Pirates of the
Caribbean level.
world.
Oh my goodness, that was like one of my favorites too.
It was scary, bro. It was so good. I couldn't believe it, man. It looked like it was a totally different game at that point too.
Oh, I know. But yeah, you know, and to go from that to something where it's like, I never thought I'd like. I know that this is like a really geeky sort of thing to say, but I never thought I'd have that feeling again. Like when we went from like Nintendo 64 to GameCube.
Right, yeah.
I wouldn't say I have that same feeling as like when we went from Super Nintendo to N64.
Yeah.
Because that was like, we'll never have that again. I mean, that like redefined, that was a whole nother dimension, literally.
Yeah, it would literally take a full dive virtual reality or like seamless virtual reality for us to feel like that extra level of like dimension or depth or immersion.
Yeah.
Like
we did when we went from 2D to 3D.
There's nothing like it. I mean, like, they had like this quasi 3D stuff going on, but it, you know, like that jump to actual 3D.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that. That breaks your glass, man. There's not going to be much else like that. Probably not in our lifetime.
yeah. So, but I never thought I'd have that, like, because like going from, or I think even a better example would be from when we went from GameCube, or Xbox a little bit. There was some stuff on Xbox that was actually very good, like that could pass as like a 360 game. But for the most part, going from like GameCube to Xbox, or GameCube and Xbox to the 360, actually that's probably the better example, because we went from like really good 3D to the first time I think most people looked at gaming and said, that's mainstream now. Like, I want that.
Right, yeah.
Like, I know a lot of people that picked up a PS2 because it was a DVD player.
Yeah.
But I think this is the first time where people looked at video games, the 360. When the 360 came out, I think that was the first time people looked at video games and said, I want a game console because I want to play that.
Right.
Besides just the gamers. Because that's always who it was the niche and the gamers.
Right.
But that was when it really went mainstream. People who would never have touched a video game before then went, right. You know what? I might pick up NBA for that.
That's literally what I was going to say. I think sports really, really kind of helped with that transition into that generation, because like specifically something like NCAA on the PS3 and that 360.
Yes.
Like that drew in such a crowd on its own. And I mean, it looked great. It was responsive. And it's probably one of the first times that people could look at a trailer for something for a video game and it not look like a toy.
Yeah.
Like it was like at this point, you're talking not necessarily simulation, but getting closer to it, to the point where it just feels like interactive entertainment and not a toy.
Yeah.
And of course, now we're starting to blur the lines, but
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot that comes out that looks or seems like a toy anymore, except for like if something goes for a platformer or like indie games, like
Yeah.
small arcade games. But now everything it takes, I mean, it's a full fledged industry at this point, and
Yeah.
it's a whole different animal than it was. So it's only going to get better, and I mean, I'm I know we've had the conversations about game streaming and how plausible that is. I mean, definitely a different degree with casual players than
Hmm.
professional players or a, um, professional. There'd be another word there that I'm thinking, but um,
I know what you're saying, but I
yeah,
can't think of the word.
it's competitive players.
Yes.
Um, but I don't think that there's going to be another huge generation jump like that. And I mean, we can talk holograms, we can talk augmented reality, but I don't see anything else kind of having that effect. And the same as you, I'm like 100% in line. I didn't think that I was going to be like awe inspired like that again. Like
Yeah.
something like that, like a huge jump saying, wow, this looks,
So
like
much better than.
this is indistinguishable from reality to a degree. And I mean, and I've seen outside of video games, I've seen CGI humans that look indistinguishable from humans.
Hmm.
And the thing is, I mean, eventually we will get to that in real time. I mean, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But it's going to take the next, Detroit Become Human, I think,
Yeah.
for that to fully manifest and just literally like it'll look like it's a live action. I mean, frame by frame, a live action game. What game did that? There was a game that had like, I think my mind might just be going to like the old Mortal Kombat's where like it was live action people that they had like
Yes.
each
Yeah.
frame was yeah
Yes. Yeah. That was Mortal Kombat. Yes. Or Combat. Yes.
yeah
But yeah, no. I am. And it's kind of weird though. I am really excited about it, but at the same time, like, I don't know. It's just, I guess it's probably just something with getting older.
yeah. I mean,
I'm super excited about it, but at the same time, like, I'm not bursting like I would have been as a kid.
no, and I don't think it's so much about your age as much as it's about like I mean, call it the slowing down of Moore's law, but also it's like we've seen some of the greatest transition in technology just in
Right.
our youth, and now not only is it so long between periods where we are actually like genuinely taken aback by something in gaming or like visual technology, it's also the fact that like we've come to expect things to be so much better, so much quicker. That
Right.
like, I mean, if I was a kid, like from when I was a kid, and how like, you know,
Every console generation felt like this
it,
revolutionarily.
exactly, yeah. And now at this point, it's like we don't get a new console, but every 4 or 5 years. But then whenever we do, it seems like it's a stair step. Quite obviously, it's a stair step. But like my gosh, I mean, after 4 years, like what did we see in 4 years back then? It was like literally every time it broke our glass, and we thought, it's not getting better than this. It's not getting better than this. Like, I can't believe that I'm seeing this or playing this. I have to have this, And
Hmm.
now it's like, I have to have it because I have to keep up. It's not that I have to have it because it blows my mind. And like, this stuff does look good that's coming out. It does look great. And like, but we've kind of expected this, and I've almost been watching, like, staring at my watch. Metaphorically speaking, like, all right, when is, you
When
know,
is it dropping?
I wanted a solid state in the One X.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I've been like, I was kind of expecting this a while back. So at this point, between this and of course, I've seen, what actual PC games are capable of, and now PC is still well overtaken consoles to a degree. So and I'm sure that was a whole different monster back then too. Whenever we were kids, like game
Yeah.
consoles, and we didn't even really compare it so much. And now it's like we see what PC consoles are capable of, and then it's like, or PC, sorry, PCs are capable of, and then consoles come, and it's like, and we're hitting a baseline, and then like there's
Right.
like incremental upgrades all the time with PC.
Right.
Call
Yeah.
it like with every step up of a GPU, but also anytime somebody through code optimizes something just a little bit better and then applies it as a some sort of a mod or something. You know, there's a lot of different things there that make it different from what it used to be. But I think it's more so just that like we've grown to expect it.
Hmm.
Maybe it is an age thing, and maybe that there's a correlation between the two. Like maybe we expect it because of age or something like that. But I don't think every stair step is mind blowing anymore.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, things are starting to look really good. I mean, just even like my mind goes to whenever you said water, my mind goes to Black Flag and Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
Like the water engine, really good. It looked really pretty. I mean, amazing. Other games that don't take it as seriously, you'll see like square patches of the same thing repeating. Um, but like being able to have something like that just going in the background while you're doing literally whatever else,
Right. Yeah.
like there's so much computational power now that they can let something like that look good and it not bring everything else down. Um, so Corvus said, "Bring me Arkham in a holodeck." Is that Are you talking about Batman or are you talking about?
Yeah. That's what I was about to say. Is there a?
I assume he wants to be Batman in a Star Trek universe.
Fair enough.
I mean, I don't know.
Actually, that would be kind of cool. Like a galaxy Batman.
I mean, I don't know. I've never been super drawn to Batman. I mean, a holodeck in general is like, it's like ultimate in game,
Right.
It's like, give me that. Like, that and full dive virtual reality are like the apex of what we want. But, those are both like so far out. And it's funny. I was actually having this conversation recently with, and this is, hold on. The Court of Owls, Gotham Illuminati. Okay.
I can dig it.
That's interesting. I mean, I love political shit in games. That's why. I mean, I haven't played Detroit Become Human yet. I
Yeah.
don't own a PlayStation, but my God, I of everything I've seen and followed and wanted, like that game. I mean, it has AI, it has revolution, it has politics, it has this sense of realism, it has choices.
Yeah.
Literally everything I think whenever I come to like my ideal game environment.
Well, it's so funny looking back at that same person's like previous works, like Heavy Rain.
Heavy Rain, yeah.
It feels like Detroit Become Human is what they had in their head the whole time,
Right.
but they could never actually execute because
Right.
Heavy Rain. It has a cult following, but and this may be an unpopular opinion. I think it was mostly because it was unintentionally hilarious.
Jason.
Yeah,
Jason.
I think and now it's like there's a certain degree of realism and like storytelling that can be achieved. That it feels again,
Right.
it feels like that's what he was meaning to do the whole time, but the technology wasn't there to support him yet.
Right. And I remember following it very avidly, like whenever they came out with the Kara demo
Mm-hmm.
for the engine that they use. Shit, I can't remember the name of the engine, but there's a YouTube video called Kara. It was a trailer, and it was a trailer for the engine, not necessarily meant to be for a game. But then they ended up taking her and putting her into Detroit Become Human. But this was also like, I mean, 8 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
like long time ago, and it was basically just like, I mean, did you see it? Do you happen to know what I'm talking about? That
Uh-uh.
car trailer. It was just showing off the engine of how like realistic it could look, and it's like an assembly line of like androids that they're building and putting together and testing out the AI, making sure it worked, and it was just showing off everything it could do with like facial motions and things like that, and
Right.
expressions rather, and it was awesome, and that got me hyped. I was like, let's go. Like I'm ready for this next game. Like I can't remember what the name of the engine was, but it was such a big deal. But yeah. Anyway, uh, in all seriousness, we're gonna try VR. Have you not played any VR at all?
Me either.
Like
And
at all?
I don't have any interest in it. To be
You
honest.
don't?
No.
Okay, time out, time out, time out. We've talked about VR before. I don't think I remember you like not having played VR at all.
Yeah,
Like,
no, we have talked about it before, even on this
right,
podcast
yeah.
show. Um, Not that that means anything. Everybody who's here is probably brand new.
All right, right,
I forgot
okay.
to post this to Facebook. So like all of the people
Oh, I
that you
did.
invited.
So
Oh, you did.
I posted Facebook, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I mean, we'll see how many people actually have it like rolled in or not, but
Well,
not.
we've kept a consistent three at least the whole time. So
Well, well, I'm one. I think you're one. Corvus is one. So,
does it count? I think it only counts other people.
well,
So like for me, it
oh,
shows
so
three.
okay,
It would be you and Corvus and one other person.
okay. Then that's fair. I don't know. Then I mean, I guess. I mean, if you're signed in as Sally on your phone, then
Yeah.
that would make sense. Um, so Blade and Sorcery, yes. I haven't seen too much on the Boneworks Invader Immortal, but uh, Corvus is local, right?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, just so you know, I mean, it's not far out of your way, I wouldn't think, but if you wanted to get like a solid session in, grab a buddy and go to West Town. There's a VR arcade in there. They have a whole bunch of games that you can try. They run the Vive, which I mean, I would prefer the Oculus. I love the touch controllers with the Oculus. They feel so good. But it's still like a really good way to start off with immersion because I mean I still like can hardly tell I'm holding a controller with that. It's not like the PlayStation VR move wands are awful. Don't let that be your first immersion. Um, I would definitely recommend trying that place out. My favorite thing to play so far has been Beat Saber. I love rhythm
That's like
games.
everybody's favorite, I
It's
think.
so it's fun. It's responsive. I don't even realize that like I'm like I
And
lose myself in it.
and it doesn't tend to give people like that motion sickness effect because you are stationary. It's your sabers.
Right, and you can still move. There's
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
these blocks
But
that come
you're
at you. You have
it's
to
not
dodge and
like you're,
avoid.
like in a car
Oh,
swinging around on stuff.
right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The notes are coming at you. You're not moving towards the notes.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. It's not like one of those zero gravity flying around games that makes you think you're falling. Yeah, man. They'll have to. Grad school now, but that sounds awesome. Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, man. I mean, a lot of games, almost every VR game that you play leaves a lot to be desired. I will tell you that up front. I mean, it's not like overly fantastical by any stretch of the imagination. There are some games that you could possibly lose yourself in for hours. I would recommend. There's a YouTube video. I shared it a while back. It's called A Week in VR. Um, he within the video he calls it A Week in the Future, but if you want to find it on YouTube, it's called A Week in VR. And this guy, I can't remember his name, but really good editing skills, by the way, that you notice if you check it out. But the whole video is I think like maybe I can't remember. It's like 18-20 minutes long, but it's literally him. He has multiple VR headsets in the home. He always has one on. He only gives himself 5 seconds to take one off and put the other one on in case it dies or he's going to sleep or something like that to the point where he has to have one in a different setting. But he stays in VR the entire time and he tries out all these different games and these different levels of immersion, different bits of escapism or just passing time, different ways of doing his standard work that he typically did and like video editing and things like that. Like but mostly it shows off a lot of fun games like VR chat, which I'm sure you've seen.
Yeah.
It's literally just like it's just a chat room with avatars physically that you walk around in, and it's awful and it's wonderful and it's disturbing, but also like exciting. And there's just such a crazy blend of all these different feelings you get in it. But like it was interesting to see his take where he literally spends a whole week in a VR headset choosing these different games to play and taking all this from it. You get an idea of like a few different fun things to do in VR, like Google Earth VR was like a thing. You can quite literally fly around the planet. I mean, it's crude at best, but like I mean, it's like the better part of Google Earth if you've ever been on Google Earth and seen.
Right, yeah.
Still kind of crude from a 3D perspective, but still also like quite literally like flying around the earth, just looking at things and accuracy. Like I don't know, definitely worth checking out. That video shows you some fun games that are like more mainstream to get started on and his take on them, but like that shows you every bit of like where we are right now with VR. And I'm sure we'll have a lot more fun coming in the future, but I think most people are hard focused on like AR right now, since you know
That's
Xbox.
definitely where my eyes are.
I'm more about AR myself, and I want AR to drop down and slim down a lot. But you know, PlayStation's going to hold on to its PSVR. It's not amazing, but they've already invested in it. Xbox has already said they have no intentions of doing VR, but if they would just make the Xbox Series X a Windows 10 machine that has like a Windows Xbox format, the same way they have Windows S mode and things like that, then they would quite literally make it super easy for someone like Oculus to step in and just, make the support work for certain things. Yeah. It could be very, very easy, but I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, their 2015 build conference, I think, was whenever they first started no, it wasn't 15. I think it was 2014 build conference. They were like seriously talking about whenever they were bringing in Windows 10.
Yeah.
They were like, Windows 10 is going to replace everything. I think they were still talking about their phones at the time too, whenever they dropped them, but they were like saying like, we're not going to do any more versions of Windows. It's going to be Windows 10. We're going to update it, and it's going to be the same for our HoloLens. It's going to be the same for tablets. It's just going to change the way it looks, but programming it is the same. You make a program once, and then it flips depending on what format you put it in. I think if they did like a Windows 10 Xbox mode, you could quite literally just boot up, the Xbox, and then like choose like, I'm sure there'd be, I think we've already talked about this too, but a Microsoft Xbox branded keyboard and mouse bundle that you can buy on the shelf in the Xbox section,
right,
to work with your console, to use it as an actual PC. But then also like gaming is moving towards allowing keyboard and mouse on console. We're already there, for most popular shooters. I'm ranting at this point. I'm just kind of going on, but
no, you're good.
Like that would allow for VR to be more mainstream on console, and that would allow for more people to delve into it. But since Xbox never took that path, and PlayStation is this bad and doesn't have much support, and not everybody has an expensive enough gaming PC or powerful enough gaming PC to support the other VR, like your only hope is to go to a place in the mall to try it out, or go to some retail store that has a demo up, or maybe even fork over the $400 and hope that the Oculus Quest is everything you want it to be.
Right, yeah.
But again, nothing fantastical right now. We're still kind of waiting for the big stuff.
Yep. Well, I am not exactly certain how much time has passed, but I do know we started this podcast around the 7 o'clock mark. So I'm assuming we're hitting about an hour and 30 minutes, maybe even 2 hours at this point.
Oh, yeah. Probably.
So I don't mind them being longer, frankly, since we're only going to aim for like 1 month. But I do think that it's probably a good starting point or ending point, I should say, for this particular podcast.
That's fair.
So if you liked the podcast, this is the part where I shill out the channel.
Yeah, do it.
Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff helps. But really, more than anything, just share it around. Not necessarily even on Facebook. Just be like, hey, my friends have a podcast. And I listen to a fair amount of it, and they make some pretty good points about stuff, or maybe you should listen to them, or if you hate us, you don't have to keep listening to us, but you can.
He said go for midnight. Maybe with a really, really solid plug, we might make it to midnight.
Yeah, I was ready to say, I mean, I could see that happening maybe at one point, but probably not. No, not every time. Absolutely not.
No, I mean, I could literally talk for hours, but that's a good way to burn ourselves out again.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I think it's just Corvus and maybe one other person.
And thank you all for whoever tunes in after the fact as well.
Yeah. We will be back in February at some point. No schedule on this, just once a month. Surprise. It'll be probably a Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Okay. So I realized way too late that he he said that he saw the video that I shared as I'm like explaining it.